Satisfy your need for happiness through your own curiosity with the Ranveer Show. My next question to you is actually about casual sex. Because if you're married to someone, you will have sex to produce a child. Both partners will have urges. So you will engage in pleasure-oriented sex. And I am assuming that over the course of marriage, over 30, 40 years, eventually your libido or your urges reduce a little bit, which is why you see older people turning towards God, couples actually showing up at meditation centers, temples. I'm assuming that that's what happens in life. But what are the guidelines about like casual sex? Has anything been spoken about its effects on the soul, mind, body? And I'm sorry, I'm going into these secondary questions. It's only for the sake of the content.
See, when we are speaking about guidelines speak about both positive and negative, which is anvay and vyatirik. Anvay means what to follow, vyatirik means what to avoid. So, as you know, that depending on what choices you make, you get results. So, therefore, in the Shastras also, lots of examples of casual sex have been described in terms of extramarital relationships and somebody going after someone. Like, for example, in 6th canto Bhagavatam, there is Ajamil's pastime. Ajamil was a Brahman family, very nice, he was completely Ayam hi Shruti Sampanna, Sheela Vritta Gunalaya. He had all the good qualities. Shruti Sampanna, he had studied all the Vedas. Mrdu, very, very gentle. Satyavak, Mantravit, Shuchi, all the good qualities. But suddenly he saw in the forest when he had gone to collect firewood, he saw a young lady being embraced by a young man behind a tree. And he just saw that for some time. And that entire picture hit him at that moment in such a way that the Kamadev in the Sanatan Dharma tradition, Cupid or lust, is presided over by a god known as Kamadev. So Kamadev has 5 arrows. When a man and woman, when they say they get attracted to each other, right? So the first kind of attraction which begins is called darshanam, when through the eyes one see each other. When there is darshanam, then gradually it goes to the second stage, where when you start seeing each other, you start feeling happy. That is called harshanam. There is pleasure. Then gradually what happens is the intensity of the emotions grows and it becomes roshanam, where it intensifies and various other anxieties also start cropping up in that relationship. And then in due course of time, when one start realizing that when we began the relationship, it was hunky-dory, but now so many other egoistical things are coming in the way. And the promise with which I got into the relationship is not being fulfilled. So that's known as the 4th stage, shoshanam, when one starts feeling exploited or trapped in a relationship. And then one becomes totally hopeless and starts searching for something beyond a man-woman relationship. That is called maranam, where one feels that there was a time in life when I thought sex life was life. There is nothing beyond sex life. But now you become maranam, which means you understand that, okay, that was one dimension at a particular stage in life. But there are other truths in life and other experiences in life which need to be embraced.
Like when you're a child, you think that your love for toys will last forever.
Something like that.
This is just love for toys in adulthood.
Correct. So, absolutely. So that is how the whole concept of the ashrams was also designed. Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyasa. So the whole idea was, if you read in the Shastra, all of the kings, they had queens. So now we are speaking of, monogamy, and polygamy is not allowed as per law. But in the Vedic tradition, if you read about all the kings, they had so many wives and all of that. So the idea was not to be obsessed with a man-woman sexual relationship. The idea was to focus on a higher pleasure. That once you start focusing on the higher pleasure, these things are automatically taken care. Right? For example, food. You eat food and the hunger is satiated. So it's a need of the body. So like that, sex life is also a need of the body. But the whole Vedic Sanatan Dharma, the difference between animalistic life and Vedic life is not that one is not allowed to fulfill one's appetite. One is not allowed to fulfill one's desires. But how you can fulfill your desires while following the higher laws. How to have pleasure while fulfilling the purpose of human form of life. So when one has pleasure without any idea of the purpose of human form of life, that is what Mahabharata calls as Pashubhir Naranam. And one has pleasure while fulfilling and supporting and aligning with the purpose in life. That is what is known as dharmic life. So therefore, if you go into all these traditions, then finally Ajamil, he kicked out his wife and brought this prostitute to his house. And he started having children. And then the youngest child from that, was named as Narayan. Few sages came to him and came to the wife, and they blessed the wife that when the youngest child is born, name him Narayan. So at the time of death, Ajamil suddenly saw Yamadutas. You like that topic.
Favorite topic.
When the Yamadutas came in, Ajamil cried out to his son, Narayan, Narayan, Narayan. And the Vishnudutas came, and there was a conversation, and Ajamil was saved from going to Yamaloka. So then, in that pastime, the concluding verse says, Mriyamano Harer Nama Grinna Putropacharitam Ajamilopi Agaddama Kimpuna Shraddhagrinan. 4 points are mentioned in this pastime. Ajamil cried out Lord's name only at time of death, very, very deeply. Number 2, he called out to his son. Number 3, he was still sinful till death. And 4th, he never heard about power of holy name. Still he got the benefit. So this is known as Kaimutiki Nyay, which means if with little connection he got so much of benefit, what if one chants regularly, one follows the principles, one directly calls out to the Lord, one hears about the power of the holy name, how much more benefit they'll get.
Narayan, 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 Narayan.
So that's the idea. So I think, your question is very apt. Previously, when people would have sex life, it was between their partners. The whole concept of bombardment about sex life through media has created a very artificial situation where practically the ether is filled with this topic so much that it is bombarding on young minds and creating various kinds of perversions in their mind and making them feel, because repetition automatically creates impression.
Yeah. When we say that modern day children are born into the world of social media, we also must say that modern day children are born in the world of sexualization.
Absolutely.
So in some ways, it is beyond those children's control. Which makes me question on a slightly deeper level, is this also the will of God?
See, Lord has created 4 yugas. Satya Yuga, Golden Age, Treta Yuga, then goodness comes down further. Dwapara Yuga, Rajogun increases, Kali Yuga, Tamogun is on the rise. So in that sense, yes, for the ambience in Kali Yuga to grow, Kali Yuga means 2 things: quarrel, conflict, and number 2, hypocrisy.
Quarrel and hypocrisy.
Quarrel and hypocrisy. So when you are with people, there will be conflicts and quarrel. when people are alone, there is tendency towards hypocrisy. So this is a big challenge and dilemma in Kali Yuga. If you are with people, there is problem. If you are alone, there is problem. So overall, Kali Yuga is represented by weakening of the mind. So when the mind becomes weaker and weaker and weaker, the ability to say no to temptations goes down. What to speak of when there is such continuous bombardment? So therefore, I must say that as parents, it becomes a very huge responsibility to train the children in these kinds of dangers right from the beginning, because the kind of training we got when we were growing up was when there was no television also when I was growing up. So that was a different ecosystem. But today when children are growing up, parents may need to fast forward the transmission of warnings about what to beware of in their lives, because the amount of attacks on the mind and the psyche of kids nowadays has grown exponentially compared to our generation in the 70s. So I think it's a major responsibility.
Yeah.
And just to conclude, and therefore we need hundreds of Ranveers who can create positive, healthy, nourishing, enlivening, consciousness elevating content by which people can actually learn to think deeper, live their lives with conviction and integrity, and transform their character.
If you enjoyed today's clip, make sure you check out these curated playlists that we've made especially for you related to the subject that was spoken about in this clip.